Okay, so let's start playing with type annotations. I'm going to go ahead and open up Xcode Beta, and I'm just going to generate a brand new playground here. And I'm going to go ahead and call this project type annotations. And we'll make sure that we set this as iOS, and we'll select next. I'll save this right to my desktop, and I can enlarge this. And let's just delete our first line. Okay, so let's set up our first type annotation. We'll say let factory name string. And all we're doing here is we're saying that factory name, the constant, we use the let keyword here, will always be a string. So once we give it a value, we know that it will stick with that value. So we can write here, factory name is going to be chocolate factory. And that's fine. So all we're doing here is we're specifying ahead of time that factory name should be a string. Now, what does that mean that we can't do? Well, we can't give it a number value. We can't write like 100 here. And the reason we can't write 100 here, and we can actually force this to cause an issue here by closing and reopening here, we're going to see that int to value of type string is not allowed. So we've specified that factory name needs to be a string, and we can't just randomly assign a random number now. So let's stick with chocolate factory. And we see that for our type annotation here, it can also be a constant. Let's practice a type annotation with a variable. So let's go ahead and say var loompas (int). And we know that an integer is a number, so we can say loompas is going to be equal to 100. Incidentally, the int is just short for integer. This is just the way Apple has chosen to write this keyword. You just need to remember that. But you'll see us add int all over the place, so you'll have plenty of chances to see that and have that embedded in your mind if you continue to follow along with these lectures. And we see that our name here is Oompa Loompas, and that we can assign a value equal to it, equal to 100 to the variable named Oompa Loompas. Now this is a variable, which means that we can change its value after we've initially set it here. So we can say Oompa Loompas is going to be equal to 50, and that's completely valid because this is a variable. We can also go ahead and specify the type and immediately assign a value. Let's see what I mean by that. We can say let factory girl string equal she's got curlers in her hair. So what are we doing here? Well, we're saying that factory girl, the constant, is a string, and then we immediately set it equal to a value. Now you might say, why didn't we do that up here? Well, we could have. We could have just written this in one line, but I wanted to show you that by specifying the type, we can assign the proper type later. That's the reason we did it this way, but this is a completely valid way to do this. Now, you might say, in the past, when we've created a constant, why haven't we had to do string? Well, Swift is really smart. It's a really cool programming language. If it can figure out what type is on the right side, we technically don't need this. This is fine to write it without it. But there will be cases when Swift will not be able to figure out the type. And in that case, we can often help out our compiler or our computer program here by doing : and giving it the proper type. There will also be many cases that we want to assign a value later, in the case like var Oompa Loompas, or let factory name, string here. And in these cases, it's really useful to specify the type so that later on we will be able to assign the proper type. And it will be handy to see some examples in larger projects, which we'll definitely get to in the future. But for now, it's really important to understand that this string here is just a type annotation. And we'll be seeing actually quite a few of these when we hook up IB outlets from our storyboard over to our code. You're going to see like UI button, UI label, and all it's doing is it's specifying the type.